What's going on? What's going on, team? Welcome back to another Money Monday. Welcome back to another week full of trading, full of economic data that's going to be released, and full of action that needs to be taken. So what we're going to be doing in this video is we're going to take a look at some of the key economic data that's going to be released throughout the week. We'll take a look at the charts, some of the smaller time frames, some of the bigger time frames, look at some key levels for you guys to pay attention to, and hopefully that helps you guys make a better trading decision throughout the week. Again, so we're going to be taking a look at the chart. On the left, we obviously see a chart that's a 15-minute chart. Thursday, we closed out. We were opening up a little bit lower, and then we ended up pushing up to the upside once we saw the employment data come out. And then Friday, we were closed, so we were pretty stagnant throughout the after hours and then pre-market. And then today in the morning on Monday, we actually saw some selling pressure happening pre-market. And then as soon as the market opened, we actually saw price action skyrocket. And it pretty much skyrocketed back to where we were. So in essence, it's just a choppy day. And so let's go ahead and dive into a couple of the charts. And then we'll dive into the key economic data to pay attention to right after this. We're going to keep it short and sweet and brief, so stick around. So looking at the daily chart, we really haven't moved too far off of where we were the last week in terms of what we talked about, right? So last week, the last thing that we talked about was right over here. We just barely pushed over this 313 zone, and then we ended up pretty much trading sideways since then. And so let's go ahead and get a drawing tool so that you guys can have a little bit of a better idea. So the last video we made was just right above this 313 zone. We pushed up. We were more so on the overbought side. Obviously, we've come down. We talked about this come down that we were going to have to this 313 zone and potentially a break through this trend line right here that we're seeing. And if we break lower, we're going to probably be headed down to this 290 zone, I would say. Let me go ahead and clear this out, give you guys exact zones. 290 zone down to the downside. That's going to be the target to the downside if we do break this trend line. And if a couple of other things happen that we're going to talk about when this data is going to be released. So we actually have the CPI data being released on Wednesday, and that's really going to determine if we're going to be pushing up a little further to the upside, up to this 336 zone, 337, or if we're going to break down to this 290 zone. And it's a big day on Wednesday, and then Thursday is going to have quite a bit of data as well. So this week is a pretty important week for you guys to pay attention to, especially in terms of data. If you guys haven't been paying attention to data, this is the week to start. Again, to the upside, we have this 336, 337 zone. To the downside, we have this 290 zone. That's going to be the first level to the downside. And then after that, it's going to be 260, 261 to the downside if we do continue to see a push lower. And then to the upside, let's go ahead and scroll up. To the upside, we're going to be paying attention to this 369 zone. That's going to be that level further up above this 336, 337 zone. The next level up is 369, 371 in that general range. So those are the two levels to pay attention to on the daily chart. 4-hour chart and the smaller time frames are a little more unclear. That's why we like to do an analysis on the daily chart right off the bat. The first thing that you guys want to pay attention to is obviously the price action, which we covered. The levels that you should be paying attention to, we covered. RSI, we were overbought last week when we made a video, and then we pretty much, as you can see, stayed pretty stagnant, right? We didn't really go too far. We just came down to retest this 313 zone that we actually talked about us potentially doing. But other than that, we didn't really see any significant action take place. We are still more so on the overbought side than the oversold side, so more downside is more likely than, you know, seeing a stronger push to the upside. Again, it's really going to depend on the CPI data that's going to come out. We might push up to this next resistance level at that 390 zone, right? Or 336 zone, 336 to 339 zone, sorry. just right up here. We might push up to here and then find resistance and then break out if the price action trends right here, and then we break down to the downside. Or we might see the same thing happen, price action trend up and then break up to that next level. So either possibility could happen. We're not extremely overbought like we were over here when we saw that red come in and then we saw that selling trend come in, but we are more so on the overbought side. Again, once the CPI data gets released, we're gonna have a much better idea as to where the market's gonna be headed, and obviously how inflation's doing. So if we break down on Wednesday below this trend line and then break through this 313 zone, we're obviously going to be headed down to this 290 zone. That's going to be the target. Now you might be asking, well, which way are we going to be going? Again, this is why it's important to pay attention to data, because nobody really knows. Everybody can predict, everybody can, speculate what they think is going to happen. It's not our job to speculate, it's our job to react, right? That's how traders and investors make money in the markets, right? They react to certain data that's being released or certain price action that they're seeing. Everyone else that's trying to predict the market, that's why there's such a big losing percentage in trading, is because everybody wants to predict, everybody wants to think that they know what the market's going to be doing. Nobody really knows. So that's why we make these videos very simple. We give you the data, we give you what you need to pay attention to, and then obviously once you see that data panning out, once that reaction starts taking place, you know exactly what to do, and whether you do it or not is up to you. So again, those are the levels. RSI, we are still on the overbought side, more so than oversold. Plenty of room to run to the downside. And the one thing that's different this week that we didn't see last week is when we were overbought here last week, we actually didn't see that trend converging yet, right? The moving averages weren't converging. Now we're starting to see that convergence happen. Obviously, this could last a little while and we might see some sideways trading, but we are, again, more so on the overbought side, more likely to start seeing a selling happening. And so that's why we're more so bearish than we are bullish at this given time, right? Obviously, we shift our perspective on the market as things get released, as data gets released. We start seeing, more clarity. We know kind of where the market's going, so we become more set on a direction rather than kind of being in limbo where we're at right now. When the market's trading sideways, you don't really want to be, I wouldn't say necessarily holding anything, whether the opinion is, bearish or bullish, and it's just because you don't really know which way the market's going. And so having an open position is just taking risk that is leading nowhere, right? You're not taking risk when the market's going up or when it's going down. It's just trading sideways, so you have your money tied up without anything really happening. So really, we want to wait for direction clarity, and that's going to be taking place on Wednesday. Throughout the week as well, we're also going to have data being released. So let's go ahead and jump into that. Let's go ahead and pull up the economic data calendar. I'll move the chart over here so that you guys can kind of see and have an idea of how things are looking while we go over this. Today, we didn't really have too much happen. We didn't have much, data being released. We had the FOMC Williams member, whose name is Williams, speak today, pretty much when the market closed. And he was just touching on some points in his opinion on the market, whether the Fed's going to be doing rates or not, and kind of that whole thing. You guys can definitely check it out. There's a lot of resources that you can find on Google to find that speech. You can probably even Google it or YouTube it. In essence, not much happened really. Price action didn't really react after that. There's a lot of that happening, so not too exciting. On Tuesday, what we have is the short-term energy outlook that's being released at 9 in the morning Pacific time. That's probably the biggest thing to pay attention to, and that's really going to impact the energy sector the most. And then Wednesday is the big day that pretty much everybody's waiting for, and where the market's really going to find directional clarity. And we have the core CPI being released pre-market at 5:30 a.m. Pacific time. And then year-over-year CPI, and then month-over-month CPI. That's all being released at 5:30 in the morning. And then we have crude oil inventories being released. And then FOMC meeting minutes that are going to be released as well. Those are going to be important to pay attention to. Those are the big ones to pay attention to. Wednesday is going to be the biggest day of this week. So if you're going to pay attention to any day, try to pay attention to what happens on Wednesday and how price action reacts to the CPI data that's going to be released. So what's expected is 0.4%. Previously, we had 0.5%. So we really want to see this come in either lower or higher. If we do come in lower, the market's going to continue to trend higher, and we're probably going to go up to this resistance level right up here. If it comes in higher than expected, we're going to see the market start selling off to the downside, right? So CPI year over year, like I said, 6% is what was previous, and then we saw 5.2% the last time CPI was released. And so again, this is kind of how it happens. If we see it come in lower than expected, lower than 5.2, the market's going to continue higher. If it comes in hotter than expected, so a little bit over 5.2 or even at 5.2, there's a high probability that we're going to start seeing selling pressure. And so if you guys watched last week's video, we actually covered oil production cuts. So obviously that doesn't start until May, but that news might really trigger people to start raising prices because they anticipate fuel costs going up for their transportation, for their businesses, for their services that they're providing, maybe traveling somewhere or transportation or transport or anything like that. So we'll really see how that comes in. And then on top of that, everything else that has been piling up until now, besides the oil production cuts, right? So we'll see how that data comes in, and that's really going to be how it reacts, right? If it comes in hotter than expected, we're going to see selling pressure. If it comes in lower than expected, we're going to probably see the move to that next resistance level. And if you guys want to know what we trade, make sure to check out some of the previous videos. When we're trying to go long on the market, we trade TQQQ, and when we're trying to go short on the market, we sell or we buy SQQQ, and those are inverse ETFs, 3x leveraged of QQQ, which is the overall NASDAQ market. So that's Wednesday. Thursday, what we have going on is we have initial jobless claims, we have the PPI report coming out, and then we have continuous jobless claims. And then that's pretty much going to be it for Thursday. Another big day. PPI is also an important one. Jobless claims are also important ones to pay attention to. And then Friday is the last day of the week. We're going to be paying attention to core retail sales, just retail sales. And then that's pretty much going to be it for Friday. Those are some of the biggest ones. There's a lot of speeches and speakers coming out on Friday. Usually happens on every Friday. Manufacturing production is also a decent one to pay attention to. But again, retail sales is going to be the biggest one, and core retail sales. So Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday are the 3 big days. So it's going to be a very significant end to the week. Pay attention to those. If you guys found value in this video, make sure to smash that like button. If you guys aren't subscribed, make sure to subscribe. And if you guys want me to live stream the CPI data report, make sure to get this video to 100 likes, and I will do a live where we pay attention to the CPI report as it's being released and pay attention to the charts, how it's going to be released, and you guys can watch me react and trade live to that. So if you guys found value in this video, smash that like button. If you guys aren't subscribed, subscribe, and hopefully you guys have a great rest of your week. I'll see you guys on next week's Stock Talk video.